So we live in a travel trailer.
Does this look like Trashville behind us or what?
A travel trailer, so there's three types of like RVs. An RV just being a recreational vehicle. A travel trailer are the things that, well, they look like this. It's one of those things. You can pull it with an SUV, you can pull it with a truck, you can pull it with a car if you're stupid. A fifth wheel is one of these things. You need a truck to pull it. Both because of the way it hitches onto the bed of the truck. That's not true. You can actually pull them with an SUV, but recommend a truck. And this is a motor coach or a motor home, I guess. They come in two different types. A Class A, which is one of these things, the traditional RV, and a Class C, one of these things. You know, it's like basically a box on a truck. We have traveled around full-time in our travel trailer for 2 years. We have friends that have fifth wheels, and my parents and my wife's parents, Danielle's parents, both just bought... No. They bought a Class A. No. My parents have a Class A. My wife's parents just bought a fifth wheel. We have quite a bit of experience with all of these, and our recommendation, if you're looking to do this full time, to live in the thing, I would personally go with a motor coach. Either a Class A or a Class C. This is the reason. I'm going to tell you the positives, in my opinion, and the downsides. There are some downsides. The positives, overwhelming, is that they are so much quicker to set up, easier to maneuver, and just a lot more convenient to travel around in. The downsides to a travel trailer, I guess I should tell the downsides to the Class A. The downsides to the Class A is that if the motor goes out, your home is attached to that motor. So if you buy like an old Class A and the motor goes out and you have to send it in for the motor to get fixed, your house goes with it. You kind of want to get a newer Class A with a newer engine that you don't have to worry about breaking down. Whereas if you get a travel trailer fifth wheel, you can get a pretty stinking old one because there's not really any moving parts, not too many. And you can get one like ours, like a 2004, renovate it, and it looks great and it still works great because there's not like many mechanical parts. Whereas a 2004 Class A with a 2004 engine that has miles on it, that's the biggest downside. But I feel like if you're in the market for something newer, something with a warranty, or something that you just like, maybe you're really mechanical and you can work on those things, that is the way to go. They are so much more convenient and easy. Fifth wheels are a pain to park. Even if you're a great parker, you're like a truck driver, which is actually what my dad did. He can back up anything. They're just a pain because so many RV parks that you go to were built in the 30s or the 40s, the 50s, or the 60s, and the sites are very tiny. And it's just almost impossible to get the thing in there. Like, you can do it. It's a challenge, right? It's like, I can do it. I'm the same way. I'm like, oh, give me the smallest spot. I'll get it in there. You can do that, but it turns into a real hassle after the fun of backing it up is over. And some are really, like, they really are just impossible. You can't get in there. Whereas you get a Class A and they're just like, done. So simple. And the setup on a Class A is really so much faster. It's almost literally park it and you're done. Park it, push a couple of buttons to get your slide outs out, to stabilize it automatically, and then you just attach your hoses and you're set. With a travel trailer like ours, it's an hour to 2 hour long process to set it up and tear it down every time. Because the stabilizers, the things that go down and keep it from wobbling, you have to hand crank those things. You have to... My battery went out. Saying my battery went out, that reminds me for some reason of Pretty Woman, where Julia Roberts said, oh, my pantyhose have a hole in them. I don't remember what she says. It sounded pretty much the same, though. I'm kind of like Julia Roberts. Anyways, I don't remember what I was saying. The point is, Class A, Class C, whatever, they're so much easier and quicker. They kind of make you want to just drive more, because you can just get in it and go, instead of, like, hook up the trailer to the car. That's really much more of a process than you might realize. There's a lot more room on those Class A's especially. Those big Class A's have so much stinking storage. Storage is not as much of an issue as with our little travel trailer. Fifth wheels are easier than a travel trailer. So if you want something that's like, I don't want to drive it, I want to pull it, fifth wheels are definitely easier and quicker than the travel trailers. They hook up a lot easier to the trucks. It's just kind of a back up and pull a little thing and you're done. It's a lot quicker. And they maneuver a lot better than a travel trailer. A travel trailer is good to start off with. We've had it for 2 years and we're probably not going to change because we've just gotten used to it. I mean, it just takes a little more time, you know, it's not that big of a deal. But when you do this a lot for 2 years and you're like going from one place to another frequently, it adds up. So if we had to do it again, we'd probably go with a Class A or a Class C. Although, I'm not a big fan of the looks of the Class Cs. But, whatever. A lot easier, in my opinion. I guess I should give you a little more information. Because I'm putting out videos that are kind of clickbaity. You know, like with titles that I know people are going to look for and get something out of. But I don't want to just give you a crappy video. I actually want to give you useful information. Oh, this is kind of important. You really need to think about if you're going to get either a travel trailer or a fifth wheel, something that's going to be towed, you really got to give some thought to your tow vehicle. There's a lot to think about. Obviously, towing capacity, the power of the vehicle, how well it's going to tow, and all those things. What most people don't think about is, what's this car, this vehicle going to be like to drive when we're not towing? Because the majority of the time, you're going to drive that thing when you're not towing it. Because we don't tow that often. We'll tow the trailer to a place, and then for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we're driving that tow vehicle around without towing. And so we wanted a car that was really comfortable to drive when we're not towing, had plenty of room for not just our family, but friends and family that came to visit. We wanted the extra seats. And we just wanted it to be comfortable. So we wanted an SUV, which means we couldn't really get a fifth wheel. Like you can, there's ways to do it, but you've really got to get a small fifth wheel because the SUVs don't have the same towing capacity as like a diesel truck. So if you get a fifth wheel though, you really do need to get it. You don't have to, but usually, most cases with most fifth wheels, best case scenario is like a diesel truck, like a 3/4 ton or a 1 ton. You can do it with a gasoline motor, but those fifth wheels get pretty dang heavy. Oh, I should talk about the size. Our trailer is a 28 foot. Technically, if you measure it end to end, it's probably more like a 32 foot. But it is, for us, the largest, longest sort of trailer we would ever want to pull. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is maneuverability. We can get this thing into a lot smaller sites and a lot smaller RV parks than these big fifth wheels can. Those huge fifth wheels are such a pain to move around. Like if you're just a weekend person, you take it out once in a while in the summer on the weekends, then get the biggest one you can. Who cares? But if you're going to live in it and drive it all the time, big ones can be a pain. And actually, you're a lot more limited on the RV parks you can even stay at because RV parks have limits to how big your rig can be. That's what they call it. If you're hip like me, an RVer, you call it a rig. But they limit you, so they always ask you when you make reservations online or over the phone, how big is your rig? And if it's too big, you can't stay there. The limit usually seems to be about 30 to 32 feet is kind of the max for a lot of RV parks. And if you're over that, you're kind of screwed. You just have to go find another place. You're a lot more limited. So if you can stay under that, your options are a lot more plentiful. That's the wrong way to say that. And the size difference, it's kind of crazy. Like, go look at them. The size difference between like a 42-foot fifth wheel and a 30-foot travel trailer, when you're inside, it's not that big of a difference, at least to me, because they're both really, really tiny. You go into them and you're like, wow, this is really small. Regardless of how big a fifth wheel you get, it's still going to feel kind of small. Oh, another thing, definitely. If you get anything over our size, ours again is like 28 foot technically. Anything bigger than that, I would so recommend getting 2 air conditioners on top. For sure. Ours works great, but if our trailer was any bigger, 1 air conditioner would not cut it. We've seen some like 35 foot like fifth wheels and even travel trailers that only have 1 air conditioning unit, and we're like, oh, that's horrible. The 2 air conditioning units don't make it any colder, but the output through the fans, through the vents where the air is coming out, is twice as much. You get so much more air coming through those things, and they work so much better. The problem with 2 air conditioners is that you then need a 50 amp plug. So RVs, travel trailers, fifth wheels, they come in 2 electrical sizes. I don't really understand this, but there's 30 amp and there's 50 amp. 30 amp is what almost any RV park has. 50 amp, you got to be a little more choosy. Some RV parks don't offer 50 amp period, and some, if they do, they only have limited amounts of 50 amp hookups, and they generally cost more. You can run a 50, like if your travel trailer is only a 50 amp, you can still plug it into a 30 amp plug, but you have problems like you can only run one air conditioner at a time. And even then, sometimes that one air conditioner will make your breaker pop all the time. It's just not really enough power for the unit itself. It just takes more power. So it's kind of a pain, but you can do it, and people do it all the time. It's just you can't use both air conditioners. And even when you're just using one with plugging in a 30 amp with a 50 amp rig, you'll pop circuits and stuff. Whereas a 30 amp, like ours is a 30 amp, we rarely pop circuits because everything's built for 30 amp. Yeah, that's about it. That was an informative video. I'll tell you that. You got your money's worth out of that one.